Welcome back to Buckeye Country Creations. My name is Sonia, and I'm so glad you're here. I love my family. I love to cook. I love to clean. I love to eat what I cook. And I love to visit flea markets and antique shops. And I love to travel this beautiful country of ours. And I love sharing all of my activities with you. So come along with me and join me on my journey at Buckeye Country Creations. Welcome back to Buckeye Country Creations. In today's video, we're going to be canning and preserving some apples that I was given last week. If you saw my short, you saw my apple haul, what I want to call a haul. But anyway, I had talked about making and canning up some apple pie filling, but in all of my research that I've done, all the articles that I've read, the blogs, other videos and stuff, it said if you don't get your headspace just right, your apple pie filling can explode. I'm not experienced enough for that, you guys. I can't handle that. So, there's a way to can and preserve simply the apples, peel them, slice them, preserve them in some syrup, and then when I get ready to make my apple pies or my apple cobblers, I'll just add my clear gel then, thicken it up, we'll be good to go. So that's what we're gonna do. This is my tried and true reference when I can anything. I use my ball canning guide because when you're preserving food, you want to use tried and true and proven methods to make sure that you're safely preserving your items. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using this recipe to can my apples. So, and then we're going to water bath, seal them, just like I do my jelly, but the processing time for the apples will be like twice as long. Rather than 10 minutes, it'll be 20 minutes. So let's get these apples peeled, sliced, and over into some water and lemon juice, and then we'll get the syrup started, and then add the apples to it later, can them up, and get them taken care of. So let's go. Okay, so we've got these bundles of apples, big, beautiful, good firm apples, because you want your apples to be firm. I've already washed them, so we're going to peel them, slice them up, and get them over into this water and lemon juice. So let's get that taken care of. It's a beautiful day today. We got some rain yesterday, but it's gorgeous today. The sun is shining. It's not near as humid here in Arkansas as it has been, so we are thankful for that. But I'm just going to get all of these apples cut up and into this water and lemon juice, and I'll be right back. If when you cut your apple, if you will turn this side down and cut, you're a lot less likely to get into the apple core. Just make sure your apple's straight. course, if you have an apple core, you can use that. I don't have an apple core. See, there's my apple core. And you could actually make a pie and not take the peeling off. You could do apples like that, but then it tends to make it a little harder for your apples to mesh together when you're baking it. So, but now when I make my apple butter, I don't peel my apples. I leave them with the skins on. The longest time is spent peeling your apples. That's what takes the most amount of time, is peeling. And being that it's me and my husband, I'm probably just going to do this one bowl here for apples, to preserve as apples. And then the other one over here, I'm probably going to make my crock pot apple butter, because he's down to his last jar of apple butter from last year. And he loves apple butter, so that'll be what I do. When you're cooking in the kitchen in the South, it can get warm really quickly. So that's why when I'm doing this, I try to do it either in the early morning or in the late evening. And I got a little bit of a late start today. It's actually, let's see, it's about 9:45, and normally I would have already been doing this, but I had some stuff I had to take care of this morning. Had some family issues to take care of. And then my grandson dropped by for a visit, so that's always good. So, but it's what Saturdays are for, right? I'm figuring on getting probably about 3 jars of apples after I get them cooked in the syrup. I figure about 3 quarts of apples is what I'll have from this one. But I'll be happy if I get 2, because 2 quarts will make 2 really nice apple pies at Thanksgiving. I think before next year, though, I'm going to invest in an apple core slicer peeler that attaches to the table, or that will suction to the countertop. I think that might make my life a little easier next year. And they're not very expensive. I think they're less than $20, or, you know, if you get the kind that attaches to the countertop, it's less than $20. I mean, or the table. You can get the one with a section cup. I think it's probably less than $30. Probably really be less than that during a time when it's not canning season, right? And apple butter also makes really good Christmas presents for your neighbors. So, and all it takes is a little thyme and a few ingredients. I know I love handmade gifts. You want to try to get your apples the same size. So that one's a little thin, so I don't think I'm going to use that one. But I find that if you go ahead and cut them into the quarters, you can peel them a lot faster than trying to peel the whole apple or half the apple. For me, that's just for me. Somebody else might be faster at this than I am. I'm not new to cooking, but I still consider myself a newbie when it comes to canning and preserving. So but I do the best I can. And my husband has not bought jelly in probably 2 years. So that's pretty good. You know, the older I get, and I just turned 57 this week. I just had a birthday this week. The more I like the simple things. The more I like the simple life. So if you're a young person, take it from an old person. I don't consider myself old, but I'm older. That paid off is better than new. And I love thrifting and finding the older, more simpler things for a kitchen or for a home. I prefer that now. It means so much more. And I've lived in town and I've lived out of town. And we don't live out in like the forest or anything like that, or up, in the hills. We live in the flatlands of Arkansas, but we are far enough out that we don't live in town. We are rural. We're rural. But we're close enough to town that if we need to go get something, we can. But we used to eat out a lot before my husband retired. And now we're just a little more intentional. Now we still go out and eat, all that stuff. I still work full time. But we seem to prefer the meals that we get at home because, let's be honest, unless you get a really good restaurant, you could cook better meals at home. So, but we are really into simplifying our lives and just enjoying the time that we have left to spend together. So I'm getting down. I can actually see the bottom of my bowl now with my apples. So I'm going to get these sliced up, the rest of these sliced up. Only got a few more, and I'll be back with you, okay? Now that we've got our apples all cut up and quartered and peeled, we're going to start our syrup. So I have 5 1/4 cups of water and 2 1/2 cups of granulated sugar. And I'm going to mix that up and bring it to a boil. And then when this gets up to a boil, then we will add the apples to it and cook it about 5 minutes and then take it off and they'll be ready to ladle up. So I'll be back when this comes to a boil. Okay, our syrup is to a boil. Now I'm going to grab my drained apples and we're going to put them in here and cook them for about 5 minutes. So here are my drained apples. We're going to just put them over in there very easily so I don't burn myself. And of course I had some apples go back here behind my stove. So I'm going to grab a spoon and we're going to cook these for about 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm just going to stir these up. And I'm going to go ahead and add some spices to them, because I want them to kind of be spiced up. And the spices does not change the pH. So I'm going to add a little bit of cinnamon and a little bit of nutmeg. So, cinnamon. Y'all know how I am about my cinnamon. I measure with my heart when it comes to my spices. But nutmeg, I'm a little more reserved with nutmeg. I don't do a whole lot of nutmeg because I don't want it to be overpowering. So we're going to get that stirred up. Get it back up to a boil. And let it cook for about 5 minutes. And I've got my jars sanitizing in my hot water, in my water bath. And I've got extra jars waiting on the other side, because I always prepare extra jars because you never know exactly how the recipe is going to turn out. So, okay, so I'm going to let that return to a boil, and then I'll set my timer for 5 minutes, and I'll be back when it's boiling. Can you hear that boil? Can you hear that? I'm going to stir them from the bottom because I don't want them to burn. And this is the first time I've ever put up apples, you guys, so let's crossing our fingers that these turn out good. Because my recipe says to bring it back to a boil and leave it for 5 minutes. So it's boiling. So I'm going to go ahead and set my timer. And we're going to let that cook for 5 minutes, and then we'll be back. Okay, so now I'm going to turn these down to a simmer and let them simmer. And it says to stir them occasionally, so I'm going to stir them again. Because basically what we're just doing is heating these apples through. Just getting them good and hot. But man, I'm going to tell you, that cinnamon and that nutmeg, woo, it's starting to smell like fall in my house. Okay, we're going to let those continue to cook, and I'm going to get my jars, my hot jars, because when you can, hot food, hot jars. Don't put hot food into a cold jar, because then you run the risk of cracking your jar. So I'm going to get these jars out and get them over here and ready to fill. So I've got 3 quarts. So hopefully these apples will fill up those 3 quarts. So we got about 2 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. So that they'll be ready to set my jars, and we'll be ready to go. I'm going to put the lid back on it so I don't lose my heat. So we're going to give these apples another stir. And they are starting to soften up. So about another minute. And we'll be ready to can. And what I'm going to do is my apples will go in first, and then I'm going to make sure I have enough syrup and ladle the syrup over the top of the apples, because that's what preserves the apples. Okay, we are ready to move them over and ladle them up. Okay, so I've got my station ready here, so I'm going to put my pan over here. That's got my hot food in it. And we're going to ladle them up into these hot jars. I've got one wide mouth jar. So we're going to ladle these up into here. And then I'm going to take my debubbler and I'm going to push those apples down. Push them in there. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with some syrup, just syrup. I can get just syrup. And ladle it in over the apples till I get up to that bottom rim, which is a 1-inch headspace. So there's my apples in that one. I'll push my apples down. Make sure I've debubbled. I think I may need maybe a little less syrup. So I think I'm going to pour some of the syrup out of this one. Because I think I have too much syrup and not enough apples. So I think I'm going to get my ladle that I can drain my apples with. That way I can drain the syrup off of them. I think that might work a little better. So I might can get more, yeah, more apples in there now. That's a better jar. But I will add a little bit more liquid. Okay. And then I'm going to debubble. I think it still needs a little bit more liquid. There we go. I think we're good. Okay, so I'm going to wipe my jar. Put my lid on there. And that jar is hot. Okay. Fingertip tight. So now let's ladle the rest of these. I'll drain my apples. This is not a wide mouth jar here. This is a regular mouth jar. I only had one wide mouth jar. I need to get me some more. But that's okay. They're still quart jars. I can still use them. Okay. Now I'm going to push my apples down. I may just get 2 quarts. And maybe a pint. I may have to pull one of my pint jars of apples. So that's full. So now I'm going to put the syrup around it. And then I'll have to debubble it, of course. A little bit more syrup. Up to that 1-inch headspace. Okay. Then I'm going to go in, and like I said, I'm going to debubble it because I want to make sure I get all the bubbles out. Get them apples pushed down in there. Okay, we're debubbled. So now, oh, got to wipe. Oh, that water's hot. Not as hot as this liquid, but it's still hot. Okay. And then my rim. Fingertip tight. Okay, so I had to go get my quart jar because this is way too many apples for, I mean, not enough apples for that other quart jar, so I got a pint jar. And this will be good for like if I want to make a small apple cobbler for me and my husband. Push that down in there. This will be perfect for that. Pint-sized jar. And I can tell you I made way too much syrup for the amount of apples that I had, but that's okay. Better too much than not enough, right? Because that would make some awesome apple cider. I'll tell you what. Okay. So now we're going to debubble this one. And then, like I said, when I get ready to make my cobbler or my apple pie, then I will just add my clear gel. Okay, I think I need to top that up just a little bit more with just a little bit more juice. Got that one more apple in there for that 1-inch headspace. Whoa, okay, that's too much now. So I'm gonna get a spoon, take some of that out because that's too much. Okay, so now I'm going to go in and I'm going to debubble that again. I think I'm good. Push my fruit down. Okay. Wipe my jars because I want to get a good seal. Okay. My lid. and my ring. And my hot thing. So, fingertip tight. Okay, so this is ready to go. So I'm going to put my jars in here, and they will process for 20 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to lower them into the boiling water slowly. And then I'll put the lid on, process them for 20 minutes, and I'll be back. Okay, so it's almost up to a rolling boil, and I actually went ahead and canned the apple juice that was left because I'm going to use that tomorrow when I make my crock pot apple butter. Because it's already got my spices and stuff, and there was no sense in throwing it down the drain. So I canned it, jarred it up, got the lid on it, got the ring on it, got it in there too. So now we just wait for the 20 minutes. And then after the 20 minutes, I turn the heat off, take the lid off, let the jars sit for 5 minutes before I move them. So that's what we're waiting on now. Okay, our 20 minutes is just about up. So as soon as that timer goes off, we're going to take the lid off, turn the heat off, and let it set for 5 minutes before we remove the jars and let them completely cool. So, seriously thinking about getting into a steam canner rather than a water bath canner, but we'll see. Okay, timer's done. Turn the heat off. Open the lid away from me so that all that steam comes out. Set that there. So I'm going to let them sit for 5 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes and let them sit. Then I'll take them out, sit them on there, let them process, or let them sit for 24 hours before I move them. Right? Because that's what we do. We don't touch them for 24 hours. And hopefully we'll hear that bing sound, which is music to any canner's ears. It's that where it pings and it pulls that seal down. So, we'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, our 5 minutes is up. So now we can take them out and hopefully hear them ping. First thing I'm going to pull out is the juice. There's the first jar of apples. The next jar of apples. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today while I put away my first batch of apples. Hopefully they will seal good. If not, I guess I'll reprocess them or put them in the refrigerator or something anyway. But thank you for hanging out with me today and just coming along with me as I increase my skills for canning and preserving food, because as we know, every little bit counts in the economy that we have these days. So tomorrow I will be filming me making apple butter, and I will be making it in the crock pot and canning it. So stay tuned for that video. And again, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you're new here and you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing and helping support my channel. Give this video a big thumbs up because it helps push my video out to other people. And again, thank you so much. And remember what I always say, make sure you take time to go out and make those memories with the ones you love. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.